Well, we hear the word meta thrown around a lot these days. I mean, Facebook is trying to own it by creating a virtual universe and changing its corporate name, neither of which is meta, like not at all. Virtual reality is not meta. Something meta is both part of and a descriptor of its category. For example, data collection isn't meta, but collecting data about data collection is meta. Reviewing movie reviewers is meta, but movie reviews themselves are not. Our current use of meta has its roots in the Greek prefix that initially simply meant after. For example, Aristotle's Metaphysics is a collection of his work written and intended to be read after physics. Where physics is a treatise on nature, metaphysics is about the nature of nature. See, Aristotle was so meta. Well, Aristotle's Metaphysics is a treatise on the unseen underpinnings of the natural world, and it's also a nifty theological framework. So, consequently, the word metaphysics has become associated with especially science beyond the physical. Now, for many, that indicates something supernatural. But there's really nothing supernatural about the physical being made manifest from the ethereal. It's natural. We don't think there's anything supernatural about quantum physics, even though physicists study the elements that form the elements. It's a metaphysical field because quantum physicists are looking for the underlying something that is the foundation of creation. So are theologians and molecular chemists. You could probably think of dozens more examples. People with a spiritual bent spend some time in study, contemplation, meditation, and community, specifically to access and experience the metaphysical, that which defines our material world. We seek God, the conscious, energetic love force that is the foundation of every life in every reality. And in fact, we're just finishing up 40 days in the introspective desert, seeking spiritual truths that reveal God's world of compassion and equity is already here, just beyond our everyday perception. In the desert, we fleetingly glimpse the underpinnings of reality, the meta of matter. These shocks to reality force us to wrestle with our psychic demons and face our personal fears, prejudices, and biases. But we also experience childlike glimmers of a more magical world, just waiting to break in if we open our minds and look beyond the flimsy, filmy gossamer that's barely separating this physical world from its underlying natural components, from its metaphysical foundation. In our metaphorical material hunger, God, the great meta, the quantum underpinning of our physical universe, ignites. God, the metaphysical, not merely the bread of life, but the stuff of the bread itself. Not merely Jesus, but the substance of Jesus and all being itself. God is the foundational, infinite energy that references itself in every life, including yours and mine. Everything we are, in every person on the planet, is a reference to God. So too every animal, plant, fish, and fowl. All of it, all of us, reference God. We don't often think about God, the great meta, because the admittedly compelling material world and our experiences within it cloud our minds. I mean, our senses enslave us, and who can blame us, really? It's addicting to feel, whether it's the cool splash of a stream rushing over our bare feet on a sweltering summer day, the rush of overwhelming love when seeing a loved one after a long time apart, or the tragedy and trauma of losing them too soon. Humans are touchy-feely, emotional creatures. That's part of the delight and anguish of being alive. Jesus understands the wild emotional ride of being human as a physical manifestation of creation's ultimate underlying force. And the gospel authors clearly intend Jesus to be an example of self-referential meta-ness. Jesus/God is both the object and the subject. God is the meta because God is the intrinsic, inseparable force of our physical existence. God is with us, always, because we're formed from God, the great meta, a creative energy many of us sense is ultimate, unconditional, and self-aware love. So, people who talk about God as energy or love are often somewhat sardonically written off as hippie freak New Agers, as if there's something wrong with being a hippie freak New Ager, which there absolutely is not. And the discussion's silly anyway, because one of the most beautiful and familiar descriptions of God as ever-present love energy is found in Psalm 23, which was probably written about 3,000 years ago. Now, today, Psalm 23 is a funeral standard used as a comforting confirmation of God's presence even beyond death. It's rarely used beyond those ceremonies. And when it is, like when it's used for Bible study or in sermons, most interpreters go for the obvious and easy God as shepherd or God as benevolent despot analogy. But there is a spiritual undertone in Psalm 23 that reminds the reader of God's nearness, of God as the meta all the time. And when it was initially written, Psalm 23 was a daily prayer, a reminder of God as the ever-present foundation of reality. Jesus would have read Psalm 23 as a declaration of oneness, a love letter to a God who is always with us because God is us, whether we're alone in a desert, surrounded by loved ones, or headed to Jerusalem and the cross. In Psalm 23, we read, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He lets me rest in grassy meadows. He leads me to restful waters. He keeps me alive. He guides me in proper paths for the sake of his good name. Even when I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no danger because you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they protect me. You set a table for me right in front of my enemies. You bathe my head in oil. My cup is so full it spills over. Yes, goodness and faithful love will pursue me all the days of my life, and I will live in the Lord's house as long as I live." God is remarkable because God, through us, is infinitely compassionate and gracious, which makes us compassionate, gracious, and remarkable too. And that is truly meta. Amen. Our question today is, You're So Meta is a new TV show on the Disney Channel, because really, they're all the Disney Channel now. What's the topic for the first episode? What's the topic for the first episode of your new Disney Channel TV show, You're So Meta? I'll send you into breakout rooms for about 10 minutes so you can discuss in small groups, and then we'll get back.